German Shepherd was buried in a sandpit at a construction site. What baby did next left everyone in tears. The story you're about to listen to will break your heart and then piece it back together in ways you never expected. If you're watching from anywhere around the world, make sure to like, share, and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. What happens in this incredible journey will leave you speechless. Dawn broke over Pinewood Valley, with fingers of light stretching across the silent construction site. The overnight security guard had just clocked out, and the first workers were arriving, coffee cups steaming in the crisp morning air. Jackson Miller, a stocky man with 20 years of construction experience, was the first to notice something strange in the eastern sandpit. "Hey, Rick, come look at this," he called, his voice catching as he stepped closer to what appeared to be dirt moving on its own. Rick Torres jogged over, his boots kicking up dust. "What the hell is that?" The sand shifted again, and both men froze as they made out the shape of a paw, filthy, bloody, and desperately clawing at the earth. "Jesus Christ," Jackson whispered, dropping to his knees and beginning to dig. "Someone call Dave. There's a dog buried here." Within minutes, the construction site erupted into frantic activity. Dave Wilson, the foreman, rushed over as workers carefully removed sand to reveal the horrifying sight of a German Shepherd, deliberately buried up to its neck. The dog's eyes were barely open, crusted with sand and what looked like dried blood. Its breathing came in shallow, ragged gasps. "Who would do something like this?" Dave's voice trembled with rage as he pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Animal Control and Dr. Lena Patel. Someone get some water, now!" The dog didn't resist as they worked to free him from his sandy prison. He simply lay there, too weak to fight or flee, his once powerful body now thin and covered in wounds that told a story of systematic abuse. "The poor thing's been here all night at least," Jackson muttered, gently pouring water into a small plastic container they'd placed near the dog's muzzle. The shepherd didn't even have the strength to drink. 20 minutes later, Dr. Patel's truck pulled into the construction site, followed by an animal control van. The veterinarian, a woman in her 40s with determined eyes and gentle hands, knelt beside the dog without hesitation. "He's severely dehydrated," she announced after a quick examination. "Multiple contusions, possible broken ribs. Whoever did this wanted him to die slowly." She looked up at Dave, her expression grim. This was deliberate cruelty. The workers stood in a solemn circle, hardened men with tears in their eyes as they watched Dr. Patel administer emergency fluids through an IV. "Will he make it, Doc?" Dave asked. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I'll do everything I can." As they carefully moved the dog onto a stretcher, a sleek black Lexus pulled into the construction site. Alexander Blackwood, the wealthy developer who owned the property, stepped out, his expensive suit looking out of place among the dirt and machinery. "What's happening here?" he demanded, then stopped short when he saw the dog. Something flickered across his face, not quite concern, something darker, almost like recognition. "What's that animal doing on my site?" Dave approached his boss with barely concealed anger. "Someone buried him alive in the sandpit, Mr. Blackwood. We've called Animal Control and the vet." Blackwood's face tightened. He glanced at the dog again, then quickly looked away. "Well, clean this up quickly. We're behind schedule as it is. And make sure the police know this has nothing to do with my company." As Blackwood turned away, Dave's eyes narrowed. Something about the man's reaction felt wrong, but he had a more immediate concern. The German Shepherd was being loaded into Dr. Patel's truck, his fate uncertain. By noon, news of the buried dog had spread through the small community of Pinewood Valley. Local news crews arrived at the construction site, interviewing workers and broadcasting images of the rescue. One of those broadcasts flickered on the television screen in the Mitchell household, where 34-year-old Ryan Mitchell, a firefighter with the Pinewood Valley Fire Department, was enjoying his day off with his wife, Ella, an elementary school teacher currently on summer break, and their 5-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily sat cross-legged on the carpet, coloring a picture of butterflies, when the news anchor's somber voice caught her attention. In shocking news today, workers at the new Blackwood Plaza construction site discovered a German Shepherd that had been deliberately buried alive in a sand pit. The dog, which shows signs of previous abuse, is now in critical condition at Pinewood Valley Animal Hospital. Police are asking for any information. What did they say? Lily's crayon clattered to the floor as she turned toward the television, her small face suddenly pale. Ryan reached for the remote to change the channel. It's nothing, sweetie. Just a sad story. No! Lily scrambled to her feet with surprising urgency. They found a dog? In the sand? Ella and Ryan exchanged concerned glances. Their daughter had always been sensitive, unusually so, according to her teachers, but the intensity of her reaction startled them. Yes, but the dog is getting help now, Ella explained gently, moving to turn off the television. The doctors are taking care of him. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Is he going to die? I don't know, sweetie, Ryan answered honestly, kneeling to her level. He's very sick, but the animal doctors are doing everything they can. Lily stared at the now black screen of the TV. His name isn't Shadow, she whispered. Ryan frowned. What did you say? The buried dog. His name isn't Shadow. Lily's voice was oddly certain. The lady on TV called him Shadow, but that's not his name. Ella placed a hand on her daughter's forehead, checking for fever. Honey, how would you know the dog's name? Lily just shook her head, tears streaming down her round cheeks. We have to go see him. Please, Mommy. Please, Daddy. He's scared and alone. Ryan pulled Ella aside while Lily returned to her coloring, though her small hands trembled as she picked up her crayons. What was that about? He whispered to his wife. Ella shook her head, worry creasing her brow. I don't know. You know how she gets these feelings sometimes. Remember last month when she insisted we check on Mrs. Peterson next door, and we found her having that diabetic episode? Ryan nodded slowly. They had never quite understood their daughter's inexplicable intuitions. The doctors had run tests after Lily's prolonged hospital stay last year, 6 months battling a rare blood infection that had nearly taken her from them, but found nothing unusual aside from her remarkable recovery. She's been through so much, Ryan sighed. Maybe seeing the dog on TV triggered something about her time in the hospital. Maybe. Ella didn't sound convinced. But what about the name thing? How could she possibly know? She couldn't, Ryan said firmly. It's just her imagination. She's a kid. That night, as Ella tucked Lily into bed, the little girl grabbed her mother's hand with surprising strength. We need to visit him tomorrow, she insisted, her eyes too serious for a 5-year-old. He's waiting for us. Lily, sweetheart. Please, Mommy. I had a dream about him. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. He was in the sand, and it was dark, and he couldn't breathe, but he didn't cry because he's a brave dog. He's a soldier dog. A chill ran down Ella's spine. The newscast hadn't mentioned anything about the dog being a military animal. What kind of dream, sweetie? Lily's eyes grew distant. He was trying to tell me something important, about the bad man who put him in the sand, about his friend who needs help too. She clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter. We have to go see him. Promise me, Mommy. Ella stroked her daughter's soft brown hair. I'll talk to Daddy, okay? Now, try to sleep. Later that night, after Lily had finally drifted off, Ella found Ryan in the living room, scrolling through news reports about the dog on his phone. She wants to visit the dog tomorrow, Ella said, sitting beside him. She's really upset about this, Ryan. Ryan showed her his screen. They're calling him Shadow because of his coloring. They think he's about 4 years old. No microchip found yet. He hesitated. They're asking for donations for his care. It says here they're not sure if he'll make it through the night. Ella took the phone, scanning the article. Should we take her? It might upset her more if he's in bad shape. Or it might upset her more if we don't, Ryan countered. You know how she gets these fixations? Remember how she wouldn't eat for 2 days when we wouldn't take her to see that injured bird at the wildlife center? Ella nodded, remembering. Their daughter's empathy had always seemed almost supernatural in its intensity. There's something else, Ryan added hesitantly. I called Max at the station. His wife works at the animal hospital. He paused. The dog has scars consistent with military training harnesses. They think he might be a retired service dog. Ella's eyes widened. A soldier dog, she whispered, echoing Lily's words. How could she possibly know that? Ryan shrugged, uncomfortable. Coincidence. Or maybe she heard something we didn't on the news. Maybe, Ella said, but neither of them believed it. That night, Lily's screams woke them at exactly 2:17 a.m. They found her thrashing in her bed, her eyes open but unseeing. The sand! It's in his eyes, in his mouth, she cried. He can't find the captain. The captain needs him. Ryan gathered his daughter into his arms, holding her until the nightmare subsided. She clung to him, her small body trembling. Daddy, she whispered as she calmed, we need to go to the dog place tomorrow. He's going to die if we don't. Over breakfast, Lily was unnaturally quiet, pushing her cereal around the bowl without eating. When Ryan announced they would visit the animal hospital that afternoon, her face lit up with such relief that both parents felt a weight lift from their shoulders. Whatever strange connection their daughter felt to this animal, acknowledging it seemed to bring her peace. The Pinewood Valley Animal Hospital was crowded when they arrived. News of the German Shepherd's plight had touched the community deeply, and many had come to inquire about his condition or offer donations for his care. The receptionist, a young woman with kind eyes, looked up as they approached the desk. "How can I help you?" Ryan faltered, suddenly realizing how strange their request might sound. "Our daughter saw the news about the German Shepherd that was found at the construction site. She's been very upset about it and wanted to check on him." The receptionist's expression softened as she looked at Lily, who was clutching her father's hand and staring intently down the hallway. "That's very sweet of you to care," she said to Lily. "Shadow is still in critical condition, but Dr. Patel is doing everything she can." "His name isn't Shadow," Lily stated firmly. The receptionist blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry?" "His real name is Sergeant," Lily said, looking directly into the woman's eyes. "He needs to see us." An uncomfortable silence fell. Ryan cleared his throat. "I'm sorry. She's been very emotional about this." "Wait," the receptionist interrupted, her brow furrowed. "How did you—" "We just got partial results from the damaged microchip about an hour ago. The registration does list a name starting with Serge. We assumed it was Sergeant or Sergio." Ryan and Ella stared at their daughter, who showed no surprise at this revelation. "Can we see him?" Lily asked calmly. "He's waiting for us." The receptionist picked up her phone with shaking fingers. "Let me get Maria, our shelter manager." Minutes later, Maria Ortiz, a woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair and a no-nonsense demeanor, led the Mitchell family through the hospital's restricted area. As they walked, she explained the dog's condition in low tones to Ryan and Ella. "He's stabilized, but barely. Multiple broken ribs, dehydration, malnourishment, evidence of older injuries too." Her voice hardened. "Someone abused this animal systematically before trying to kill him." "Has anyone claimed him?" Ella asked. Maria shook her head. "No, and something's off about the microchip. Parts of the data are corrupted, almost like it was deliberately damaged. We only got a partial registration to someone with military connections." She glanced at Lily, who was walking ahead, seemingly drawn forward by some invisible pull. "How did she know about the name?" Ryan shook his head. "I wish I could tell you. She's always been intuitive." They stopped outside a room with a large observation window. Inside, on a blanket-lined table, lay the German Shepherd, tubes and wires connecting him to various machines. His black and tan coat was dull, his body painfully thin, but his chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. "He's been aggressive or completely withdrawn with everyone who has approached him," Maria warned. "Even Dr. Patel has to sedate him for treatments. We can only look through the window." But Lily was already pressing her small hands against the glass, her eyes locked on the dog. "Sergeant," she called softly. The German Shepherd's ear twitched. Then, to the astonishment of the adults, his head lifted weakly, and his eyes, alert despite his condition, found Lily. "Oh my God," Maria whispered, as the dog struggled to his feet, setting off alarms on the monitoring equipment. Instead of aggression, his entire demeanor changed. He whined, a high-pitched sound of recognition, and moved toward the window on unsteady legs. "He knows her," Ella breathed, gripping Ryan's arm. "That's impossible," Maria said, but the evidence was right in front of them. Dr. Patel rushed into the room, alerted by the alarms, and froze when she saw the dog standing, staring intently at the little girl through the glass. "Can I go in?" Lily asked, looking up at the stunned adults. "Please, he needs to tell me something." "Absolutely not," Dr. Patel said automatically. "He's been unpredictable and—" But the dog had pressed himself against the observation window, his body trembling with effort, his eyes never leaving Lily. "Please," Lily repeated. "He won't hurt me. He's a protector. That's his job." The adults exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. "I'll go in with her," Ryan finally offered. "I'm trained in animal rescue through the fire department. If anything happens, I'll get her out immediately." After further discussion and signed liability waivers, Dr. Patel reluctantly agreed to allow a brief, supervised visit. She entered the room first, approaching the German Shepherd with caution. "Easy, boy," she murmured, ready to intervene if the dog showed any signs of aggression. But the shepherd remained focused on the window, on Lily, his tail giving a single weak wag, the first positive response he'd shown to any human since his rescue. When the door opened and Lily entered, holding her father's hand, the room fell silent except for the beeping of monitors. The dog watched her approach, his ears forward, his body tense but not threatening. "Hi, Sergeant," Lily said softly, as naturally as if greeting an old friend. "I heard you in my dreams." The German Shepherd whined again, a sound so mournful it brought tears to Ella's eyes as she watched through the window. Slowly, with Ryan right beside her, Lily extended her hand. Dr. Patel tensed, ready to intervene, but to everyone's shock, the dog gently pressed his muzzle into the little girl's palm. "He says his person is gone," Lily announced, her small face solemn as she stroked the dog's head. "His captain. But there's something wrong about it. The captain didn't leave him on purpose." "Lily, honey," Ryan started, but the certainty in his daughter's voice stopped him. "The bad man who buried Sargent is the same man who hurt the captain," Lily continued, her eyes never leaving the dog. "Sargent tried to find help, but the bad man caught him and put him in the sand so he couldn't tell anyone." The adults exchanged uncomfortable glances. Dr. Patel cleared her throat. "Lily, that's a very detailed story. Did someone tell you?" "Sargent told me," Lily answered simply. "In my dreams. And he's telling me now." She leaned closer to the dog, who had closed his eyes as she scratched behind his ears. "He says there's evidence buried too, like he was, and we need to find it." Maria stepped into the room, her professional demeanor cracking. "This is unusual." She hesitated. "The microchip registration, what we could recover of it, was to a Captain JW with a military address. We've been trying to contact someone there." Lily nodded as if this confirmed what she already knew. "His name was Captain James. He was Sergeant's person, but he's gone now." Ryan knelt beside his daughter, struggling to make sense of what was happening. "Sweetie, how could you possibly know these things?" Lily looked at him with eyes too old for her face. "I just know, Daddy. The same way I knew Mrs. Peterson needed help. The same way I knew I wasn't going to die in the hospital, even when the doctors said I might." She turned back to Sargent, who had relaxed under her touch. "He needs to stay with us, to heal, and to help us find the evidence." Dr. Patel and Maria stepped outside to confer, leaving the Mitchell family alone with the dog. Sargent had laid his head in Lily's lap, his eyes still watchful, but no longer filled with fear or aggression. "Ryan," Ella whispered, "what is happening here?" Before he could answer, Maria returned. "This is highly irregular," she began, "but given the dog's response to your daughter, we were wondering if you'd consider fostering him during his recovery." Ryan and Ella looked at each other, 1,000 unspoken questions passing between them. Could they bring this traumatized animal into their home? What about Lily's strange connection to him? And what did it mean that their 5-year-old daughter somehow knew details about a military dog and his missing handler? But as they watched Lily gently stroking Sargent's head, whispering something only the dog could hear, the decision seemed to make itself. "We'll need some time to prepare," Ryan said finally. "But yes, we'll foster him." That night, as Lily finally slept peacefully for the first time since seeing the news report, Ryan and Ella sat at their kitchen table, trying to make sense of the day's events. "Could she have heard something about the dog that we missed?" Ella suggested weakly. "Some detail on a news report?" Ryan shook his head. "The microchip information wasn't public. No one knew his name was Sargent until today." He ran a hand through his hair. "And what about this captain? The military connection?" "She's always had these moments," Ella said. "The doctors called it heightened intuition after her illness, like her brush with death opened something in her."
"But this is different," Ryan insisted. "This is specific information she couldn't possibly know."
Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows of their suburban home. In 2 days, they would bring Sargent home to recover. Neither of them knew what that would mean for their family, but both felt the undeniable pull of something larger than themselves unfolding. "Whatever's happening," Ella said, reaching for her husband's hand, "Lily believes that dog needs us, and after everything she's been through, I trust her instincts." Ryan nodded, squeezing her fingers. "So, we're really doing this? Bringing home a traumatized military dog because our 5-year-old had dreams about him?" Ella gave a shaky laugh. Apparently we are, God help us all. What neither of them could see was the shadow that passed by their window, a figure observing their home with calculating eyes before disappearing into the night. 2 days later, the Mitchell home transformed into a recovery sanctuary for Sargent. Dr. Patel had provided detailed instructions for his care, medication schedules, dietary guidelines, and warning signs that would necessitate an immediate return to the animal hospital. The German Shepherd's physical wounds were healing, but the trauma lingered in his watchful eyes and the way he startled at sudden movements. Give him space, Dr. Patel had advised. Let him come to you. He may never fully trust adults again after what he's been through. Yet from the moment Sargent limped through their front door, Lily was the exception to every rule. The dog followed her with his eyes when he was too weak to stand, and limped after her when he could. At night, despite the comfortable bed they had purchased for him in the living room, they would find him lying outside Lily's bedroom door, standing guard. It's like he's protecting her, Ella whispered to Ryan on the third night, as they watched the dog shift to allow Lily to pass into the bathroom, then resume his position. Ryan nodded, still unsettled by the bond between his daughter and the abused animal. But from what? That question haunted them as they observed other unusual behaviors. Sargent would snap to alertness at certain sounds, particularly helicopters or heavy machinery. He stood at rigid attention when military vehicles from the nearby base passed their house. And most disturbing of all, he growled whenever the television showed Alexander Blackwood, the developer whose construction site had become a crime scene. He knows something, Ryan said one evening, after Sargent had barked furiously at a news interview with Blackwood. That dog recognizes that man. Ella frowned, keeping her voice low to avoid Lily overhearing. You can't seriously think Blackwood had something to do with burying Sargent? He's one of the wealthiest men in the county. Which means he has a lot to lose if he's hiding something, Ryan countered, and a lot of resources to cover it up. That night, the nightmares began. Lily's screams echoed through the house at 2:17 a.m., exactly the same time as her previous nightmare. Ryan and Ella rushed to her room to find her sitting upright in bed, eyes wide and unseeing. The fire! The captain is in the fire, she cried, her small body shaking. Sargent tried to save him, but the bad man locked the door. Sargent was already by her side, whining anxiously, pressing his body against her, as if to anchor her to reality. Lily, wake up, sweetheart, Ella urged, gathering her daughter into her arms. It's just a dream. No, Lily pushed away, still caught in the nightmare's grip. It's not a dream. It's what happened. The bad man set the fire to hide the evidence, but the captain found it first. That's why he had to die. Ryan and Ella exchanged alarmed glances over their daughter's head. This wasn't the rambling of a typical nightmare. The details were too specific, too coherent. As Lily calmed, her eyes gradually focusing on her parents, she whispered, Sargent says we need to find the medal, the one the captain hid before the fire. What medal, sweetie? Ryan asked gently. The one with the eagle on it. It has a secret inside. Lily's voice was fading as exhaustion reclaimed her. We need to find it before the bad men do. The next morning, Lily had no memory of her nightmare, but her behavior grew increasingly erratic. She began drawing obsessively, pictures of fire, a building with tall fences, and a man in uniform surrounded by flames. In each drawing, a German shepherd stood at the man's side, loyal even in death. Should we talk to someone about this? Ella asked Ryan privately. A child psychologist, maybe? Ryan hesitated. And tell them what? That our daughter is having psychic visions through a dog? They'll think we're all crazy. Instead, Ryan began his own investigation. As a firefighter, he had connections with local law enforcement. His friend Detective Marcus Alvarez agreed to meet him for coffee, where Ryan carefully broached the subject. You know anything about a fire involving a military captain in the last few years? Maybe at a training facility? Marcus eyed him suspiciously. This about that dog you took in? The one from Blackwood's construction site? Ryan nodded. Lily's been having nightmares, specific ones. Kids have nightmares, Ryan. Not like this. She's talking about a captain who died in a fire, saying it wasn't an accident. Ryan leaned forward. She mentioned a medal with an eagle that contains some kind of evidence. Marcus's expression changed subtly. This is about Captain James Whitman, isn't it? How could your kid know about that? Ryan's heart raced. Who? Captain James Whitman, decorated military dog handler, died in a training accident 3 years ago when a fire broke out in one of the buildings at the old Pinewood Military Training Complex. Marcus studied Ryan's face. But that's classified information. The circumstances were never made public. Was foul play suspected? Marcus glanced around the coffee shop before answering. Officially, no. Unofficially, some people had questions. Whitman had apparently raised concerns about contract irregularities just before his death, but no evidence was ever found. And his dog, Ryan pressed, went missing after the fire, presumed dead too. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Until a German shepherd with a damaged military microchip showed up buried at a construction site owned by the contractor who built the facility where Whitman died. Ryan sat back, the implications sinking in. Blackwood Construction built the training facility? Through a subsidiary, yeah. Marcus checked his watch. Look, Ryan, this is all circumstantial. Blackwood has friends in high places. Without solid evidence, nobody's going to touch this case. That evening, Ryan shared what he had learned with Ella, both of them watching as Lily played in the backyard with Sargent. The dog moved stiffly, but stayed close to the little girl, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. "This is insane," Ella whispered. "How could Lily possibly know about a classified military death?" Before Ryan could answer, they heard Lily's voice floating through the open window. She was sitting cross-legged in the grass, Sargent's head in her lap, speaking to him as if having a two-sided conversation. "I know you miss him," she said softly, "but he wants you to help us find the medal. He hid it in the place with the red door, behind the eagle picture. The bad men never found it." Ryan stepped outside, trying to appear casual as he approached his daughter. "Who are you talking to, sweetie?" Lily looked up, her face serene. "Sargent, he's showing me pictures in my head." "Pictures of what?" "Of before, when he lived with the captain at the soldier place, before the fire." Her small fingers traced the scars on Sargent's muzzle. "He tried to save the captain, but the door was locked from the outside. That's how he got these burns." Ryan knelt beside them, studying the healed burn marks on the dog's face that he'd assumed were from being buried in the sand. "Lily, this is very important. Did Sargent tell you where this soldier place is?" Lily nodded. "It's where the numbers in the soldiers are, 7470. That's what was on the big sign." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ryan searched online for 7470 Military Pinewood and felt a chill when the results appeared. 7470 Veterans Road, the address of the abandoned Pinewood Military Training Complex. "We need to go there," he told Ella, showing her the search results. "Something's not right about all this." Ella gripped his arm. "Are you listening to yourself? You want to break into an abandoned military facility because our 5-year-old is having conversations with a dog? Then how do you explain her knowing about Captain Whitman, about the fire, about the exact address?" "I can't," Ella admitted. "But this is scaring me, Ryan. What if Lily's in danger because of what she knows? What if whoever tried to kill Sargent comes after her?" As if summoned by their fears, Sargent appeared in the doorway of the kitchen, his ears alert, a low growl building in his throat. He stared past them, toward the front of the house, every muscle tense. Ryan moved to the window and carefully peered out. A black SUV was parked across the street, its windows tinted, its engine running. "Call Marcus," he told Ella quietly. "Someone's watching the house." The next morning, the SUV was gone, but the sense of foreboding remained. Ryan called in sick to work, unwilling to leave his family alone. Ella kept Lily home from summer camp, citing a stomach bug. "We can't live like this," Ella said as they watched Lily and Sargent in the backyard, "hiding in our own home, jumping at shadows." "I know," Ryan agreed, "but until we understand what's happening." His phone rang, Marcus calling back after checking the license plate of the SUV. "Registered to BDI Security," Marcus reported. "It's a private security firm owned by, let me guess, Alexander Blackwood?" "Through a holding company, yes." Marcus paused. "Ryan, whatever you're involved in, be careful. Blackwood has connections with some serious people, former military contractors, private intelligence. You're playing with fire." That night, Lily had another nightmare, but this time it was different. Instead of screaming, Ryan and Ella found her sitting up in bed, eyes closed, fingers moving as if typing on invisible keys. Sargent sat beside her, watching intently. "Lily?" Ella touched her daughter's shoulder gently. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" "Finding the evidence," Lily murmured, her fingers still moving. Sergeant is showing me where to look. Ryan recognized it immediately. Sleepwalking, something Lily had done occasionally since her long hospital stay. He followed as Ella guided their daughter downstairs to the living room, where Lily walked directly to Ryan's laptop on the coffee table. Her small fingers began typing an address before Ryan could react. When he looked at the screen, his blood ran cold. 7470 Veterans Road, Building C, Red Door, Eagle Office. "The medal is there," Lily whispered, her eyes still closed. "Behind the picture of the eagle. The captain put it there right before the fire. It has the proof inside." Ryan gently closed the laptop and helped Ella lead Lily back to bed. Once she was tucked in, Sergeant resuming his guard position beside her, they retreated to the kitchen. "I have to go there," Ryan decided. "To the training facility. I have to see if there's anything to this." "No," Ella said firmly. "We should go to the police, tell them everything." "And sound like crazy people, without evidence?" Ryan shook his head. "Marcus already said Blackwood has connections. We need proof before anyone will listen." The next day, while Ella stayed home with Lily, Ryan drove to the abandoned Pinewood Military Training Complex. The perimeter fence was topped with rusted barbed wire, warning signs deterring trespassers, but a section near the back had been pushed down, creating an entry point. The facility was eerily silent, a ghost town of low buildings and former training areas. Ryan checked the map he'd downloaded, locating Building C, a two-story structure that had once housed administrative offices. The fire damage was still visible on the upper floor, black scorch marks surrounding the windows. The red door was exactly where Lily had described it, at the back of the building, its paint peeling but still recognizable. It was padlocked, but the hasp was loose, and with some effort, Ryan managed to pull it free from the rotting wood. Inside, dust covered everything. Ryan moved carefully, aware that the structural integrity might be compromised from the fire. He followed the faded signs to what had once been the commanding officer's office. There, hanging crookedly on the wall, was a framed picture of an eagle, the military insignia of the training program. His heart pounding, Ryan lifted the frame from the wall. Nothing was behind it. Disappointment washed over him until he noticed the frame itself was unusually thick. He turned it over and saw that the backing had been carefully resealed. Using his pocket knife, he pried open the backing. Inside, wrapped in protective plastic, was a military medal, a Distinguished Service Cross, and a small flash drive. Ryan stared at the items, vindication and fear competing for dominance. Lily had been right, but what did that mean about everything else she'd said? About the fire being deliberate? About Blackwood's involvement? He carefully secured the medal and flash drive in his pocket and hurried back to his car. Before he could start the engine, a black SUV pulled up, blocking his exit. Two men in suits stepped out, their posture and alertness screaming military training. Ryan hit speed dial on his phone, calling Marcus. "I found something at the training facility," he said quickly when the detective answered, "but I've got company. If you don't hear from me in an hour, come to 7470 Veterans Road and protect my family." He ended the call as one of the men approached his window. "Mr. Mitchell?" The man smiled without warmth. "Mr. Blackwood would like to speak with you about your recent interest in his property." Meanwhile, at the Mitchell home, Lily suddenly dropped the toy she was playing with, her face going pale. "Daddy's in trouble," she whispered to Sergeant, who had already risen to his feet, hackles raised. "The bad men found him." Ella, who had been washing dishes, turned to find her daughter putting on her shoes with urgent determination. "Lily, what are you doing?" "We have to go to Daddy," Lily insisted, her voice trembling. "Sergeant says the bad men are going to hurt him because he found the medal." A chill ran down Ella's spine. "What do you mean? Daddy's just running errands." "No," Lily shook her head emphatically. "He went to the soldier place, where the captain died, and now the bad men are there too." Before Ella could respond, her phone rang. Marcus. "Ella," the detective's voice was tight with urgency. "Is Ryan with you?" "No, he's out running errands." She turned away from Lily, lowering her voice. "Why?" "He called me from the old military training facility. Said he found something, but someone else showed up. He sounded scared." Marcus paused. "I'm heading there now with backup, but it'll take time to get authorization to enter a restricted area." Ella's hand shook as she ended the call. When she turned around, Lily was at the door, Sergeant at her side. "We have to go now, Mommy," the little girl said with eerie certainty. "Sergeant knows another way in, a secret way where the bad men won't see us." "Lily, we're not going anywhere. It's dangerous." "But Daddy needs the phone." Lily pulled Ryan's old cell phone from her pocket, the backup he kept in the kitchen drawer. "Sergeant says we need to get this to him so he can show people the truth on the little stick thing he found." Ella stared at her daughter, torn between maternal protection and the undeniable reality that Lily somehow knew things she couldn't possibly know. Her decision was made when the front window shattered and a canister rolled across their living room floor, spewing smoke. "Run!" she screamed, grabbing Lily and rushing toward the back door. Sergeant was already there, barking frantically, urging them outside. As they fled into the backyard, Ella heard men entering their home. She pulled Lily into the neighbor's yard, ducking behind a shed as heavy footsteps followed. "We have to get to Daddy," Lily whispered, clutching Sergeant's collar. "He knows how to stop the bad men." Would the mysterious metal reveal the truth behind the captain's death? And how could a 5-year-old know things that no child should know? What is the connection between Lily and Sergeant that transcends ordinary understanding? Ryan sat in the back of the black SUV, his hands clenched into fists as they drove through the gates of Blackwood Plaza, the gleaming corporate headquarters of Blackwood Development Industries. The flash drive and metal were hidden in his sock, pressed uncomfortably against his ankle, but the men hadn't searched him thoroughly, confident in their intimidation. "Mr. Blackwood appreciates you coming voluntarily," said the man who had introduced himself only as Klein. His smile didn't reach his cold eyes. "He has some concerns about your trespassing on private property." "It's an abandoned military facility," Ryan countered, "and I'm a taxpayer. I have every right to—" "You misunderstand the ownership arrangement," Klein interrupted smoothly. "BDI purchased that land from the government 3 years ago. You were trespassing on private property." The SUV pulled into an underground parking garage, and Ryan was escorted to a private elevator that whisked them to the top floor. The opulence of Blackwood's office was startling. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than Ryan's annual salary, and in the center of it all, Alexander Blackwood himself. "Mr. Mitchell," Blackwood didn't rise from behind his massive desk. "I understand you've developed an unhealthy interest in my business affairs." Ryan's firefighter training had taught him to stay calm in dangerous situations. He forced his breathing to remain steady. "I'm more interested in Captain James Whitman and why his dog was buried at your construction site." Something flickered behind Blackwood's eyes, surprise, quickly masked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do." Ryan held his gaze. "I think you know exactly why someone tried to silence a military working dog that belonged to a man who died under suspicious circumstances at a facility your company built." Blackwood leaned back, studying Ryan with new interest. "You're a firefighter, correct? Not a detective, not military intelligence, just a civil servant with a hero complex." He shook his head. "You're out of your depth, Mr. Mitchell." "Maybe," Ryan admitted, "but I have friends who aren't." "Your detective friend? Alvarez?" Blackwood smiled thinly. "He's a small-town cop with a gambling problem and an underwater mortgage. One phone call, and he'll remember he never spoke to you about classified military matters." Ryan felt a chill. How did Blackwood know about his conversation with Marcus? "As for your family," Blackwood continued, letting the threat hang in the air.
Ryan lunged forward, stopped only by Klein's hand on his shoulder. "If you touch my family—"
"I'm merely expressing concern." Blackwood's voice was silk over steel. "Your daughter seems to have an unusual fixation on a certain military dog. Some might call it unhealthy. Child Services takes such concerns very seriously." Before Ryan could respond, Blackwood's phone rang. After a brief conversation, his expression darkened. "It seems Mrs. Mitchell and your daughter have left your home unexpectedly," he said, setting down the phone. "My security team was simply performing a wellness check, given your erratic behavior lately." "You broke into my house?" Ryan struggled against Klein's grip. "Not at all. But in their haste to ensure your family's safety, after witnessing concerning behavior from an aggressive dog, some property damage may have occurred." Blackwood studied his manicured nails. "Now, about the items you removed from my property today." "I don't know what you're talking about." "No?" Blackwood nodded to Klein, who produced a tablet showing security footage of Ryan removing the picture frame from the wall. "My security systems at the training facility were upgraded recently. Now, what did you find inside that frame, Mr. Mitchell?" Meanwhile, Ella, Lily, and Sergeant had made it to Mrs. Patel's house 3 blocks away. The elderly neighbor had taken one look at their frightened faces and ushered them inside without questions. "Call the police," Ella gasped, keeping Lily close to her side. "Men broke into our house." Mrs. Patel handed Ella her phone and took Lily to the kitchen for a cookie, while Sergeant stood guard at the window, his body tense, watching the street. "Marcus," Ella said when the detective answered, "someone broke into our house. Men with gas. They were looking for us." "Are you safe? Where are you?" The urgency in his voice confirmed her fears. "At a neighbor's, but Ryan, he's still at that military place. He found something, Marcus. Something important enough that people are willing to attack our family for it." "I'm on my way to the training facility now," Marcus assured her. "Stay where you are. I'll send a patrol car to you." After ending the call, Ella joined Lily in the kitchen. Her daughter sat calmly at the table, sharing her cookie with Sergeant, whose watchfulness never wavered. "Lily," Ella knelt beside her, "how did you know Daddy was in trouble?" Lily looked at her with those unnervingly old eyes. "Sergeant showed me, in my head. He can see what the captain sees." "The captain? But honey, Captain Whitman is dead, I know." Lily stroked Sergeant's head. "But he's still watching. He's trying to help us find the truth. That's why he sent Sergeant to us." A chill ran down Ella's spine. "What truth, sweetheart?" "About the fire, about the bad contracts, about the people who died because of the fake parts." Lily's voice remained childlike, even as the words became increasingly disturbing. "The captain found out the buildings were breaking because Mr. Blackwood used bad materials. He was going to tell, so they hurt him." Ella struggled to process what her daughter was saying. "Fake parts? What do you mean?" "In the soldier buildings, the ones that fell down in the desert." Lily's eyes drifted to the window. "Sergeant says the proof is on the little stick Daddy found. Pictures and papers and names." The sound of a car pulling up outside drew Sergeant to his feet, a low growl building in his throat. "It's okay," Mrs. Patel called from the living room. "It's the police." But when Ella peered out, she saw it wasn't a marked patrol car, but an unmarked sedan. Marcus stepped out, alone, his face grim. "That's Mr. Marcus," Lily said, relief flooding her voice. "He's going to help us save Daddy." Ella opened the door, but the look on Marcus's face stopped her cold. "They have Ryan," he said without preamble. "Blackwood's security picked him up at the training facility. I tried to follow but was denied access. Private property." His jaw tightened. "This is bigger than I thought, Ella. I've been making calls. Blackwood Development had major military contracts overseas. There were allegations of substandard materials, buildings that collapsed, soldiers who died. Nothing was ever proven. Until Captain Whitman found evidence," Ella finished, the pieces falling into place. "And now Ryan has that evidence." Marcus looked startled. "How did you know about Whitman?" Ella glanced back at Lily, who was whispering something to Sergeant. "It's complicated, but we need to help Ryan. Blackwood's men broke into our house looking for something Ryan found, a medal and a flash drive." Marcus's eyes widened. "A flash drive? That could contain files, documents?" "Proof," Ella said. "Proof that Blackwood was responsible for those deaths. Proof worth killing for." At Blackwood Plaza, Ryan was running out of options. Blackwood's patience was wearing thin, and Klein's methods of persuasion were becoming less subtle. "I'm going to ask one more time," Blackwood said, after Klein had delivered another blow to Ryan's ribs. "Where is the flash drive?" Ryan tasted blood but managed a defiant smile. "What makes you think I found anything?" "The dog," Blackwood said flatly. "That damn dog has been causing problems for 3 years. After the fire, it disappeared. We thought it died until it showed up at one of our construction sites, digging in exactly the wrong place." His face hardened. "Then it escapes animal control and somehow ends up with your family. And suddenly, you're investigating a classified military death and breaking into restricted areas." "Maybe you should have buried the dog deeper," Ryan spat. Blackwood stood, adjusting his expensive suit. "Klein, Mr. Mitchell isn't being cooperative. Perhaps he needs more motivation. Check on the progress of locating his family." Ryan lunged forward despite his restraints. "I swear to God, if you touch them—" "You'll what?" Blackwood smiled coldly. "You're in no position to make threats, but I'm a reasonable man. Give me what you found, and your family remains safe. Continue this pointless resistance, and—" He shrugged elegantly. "Accidents happen. House fires are particularly tragic. A firefighter should know that better than most." Before Ryan could respond, Klein's phone buzzed. After a brief conversation, his expression turned grim. The woman and child aren't at the house. They escaped before our team could secure them. And they took the dog. Blackwood's composed facade cracked slightly. Find them! Now! Ryan felt a surge of hope. Ella had gotten Lily to safety. And if he could just stall long enough for Marcus to trace him... You're finished, Blackwood, he said with more confidence than he felt. Too many people know about this now. Know what exactly? Blackwood regained his composure. That a disturbed firefighter broke into private property, then suffered a mental breakdown? That's the story the press will report. He checked his watch. You have 1 hour to reconsider your position, Mr. Mitchell. After that, we'll have to take more drastic measures. As Ryan was escorted to a small, windowless room in the basement of the building, he felt the metal and flash drive pressing against his ankle. His only hope was that Ella would figure out what to do with the evidence if he couldn't get it to Marcus himself. Across town, Marcus had brought Ella, Lily, and Sargent to the police station. Captain Rivera, Marcus's supervisor, was skeptical but agreed to hear them out in his office. Let me get this straight, Rivera said after Marcus explained the situation. You believe Alexander Blackwood, one of the wealthiest, most connected men in the state, is behind the death of a military officer 3 years ago, and that he's now holding a firefighter against his will because of some evidence on a flash drive that may or may not exist? I know how it sounds, Marcus admitted, but men broke into the Mitchell home with gas. That's assault, at minimum. Mrs. Mitchell didn't see their faces or get a license plate, Rivera pointed out, and without evidence connecting this to Blackwood... My husband has the evidence, Ella insisted. He found it at the training facility before Blackwood's men took him. Rivera rubbed his temples. Even if I wanted to help, my hands are tied. Blackwood Plaza is private property. I can't send officers in without probable cause or a warrant, which no judge will grant based on this. He gestured vaguely at their story. Then Ryan is on his own? Ella's voice rose with desperation. I'll make some calls, Rivera conceded. See if anyone's reported seeing him. But officially, there's not much I can do right now. As the adults argued, Lily sat quietly in the corner of the office, Sargent at her feet. She stroked his head gently, whispering, I know, boy. I see it too. Ella noticed her daughter's odd behavior. Lily, what is it, sweetheart? Sargent says Daddy is in the building with the glass walls, in a room under the ground. Lily's voice was distant, her eyes unfocused. The captain is there too. He's trying to help. The adults exchanged uncomfortable glances. Blackwood Plaza has an underground level, Marcus said slowly. Secure rooms for sensitive meetings. This is ridiculous, Rivera scoffed. You can't possibly believe. The metal has a secret compartment, Lily continued, ignoring them. It opens if you press the wings of the eagle. There's a little key inside that works with the stick thing Daddy found. Ella knelt beside her daughter. Lily, how could you possibly know that? The captain is showing me, like he shows Sargent. Lily looked up, her eyes suddenly clear and focused. We need to go there, now. Daddy doesn't have much time. That's enough, Rivera stood. Detective Alvarez, I've humored this long enough. You can't seriously expect me to authorize any action based on a child's imagination and a dog's supposed psychic abilities. Before Marcus could respond, the office door opened and an officer appeared. Captain, there's someone here asking for Detective Alvarez. Says it's about the Mitchell case. A woman in military uniform stepped into the room. Her stern face softened slightly when she saw Sargent, who immediately stood at attention, his posture changing subtly. Major Diana Rivera, military police, she introduced herself. I understand you've been asking questions about Captain James Whitman. Marcus stepped forward. Yes, in connection with a possible kidnapping and assault case. Major Rivera's eyes narrowed. And the dog? Where did you find him? He was buried at a construction site, Ella explained. Blackwood Construction. He found his way to our daughter somehow. The major studied Lily, who stared back without fear. The metal has a key inside, Lily said matter-of-factly, for the encrypted files about the bad materials in the buildings. The ones that killed the soldiers. Major Rivera paled visibly. How could you possibly know about that? The captain tells me, through Sargent. For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Major Rivera turned to Captain Rivera. No relation, despite the shared surname. Captain, I need to speak with you privately. This involves classified military matters. After the two stepped out, Ella turned to Marcus. "What's happening?" "I don't know," he admitted, but the Major's reaction to Lily, she knows something. 5 minutes later, both Riveras returned. Captain Rivera looked shaken. "Detective Alvarez, you're authorized to accompany Major Rivera to Blackwood Plaza to investigate a potential hostage situation." His voice was formal, but his eyes revealed his confusion. "Mrs. Mitchell and her daughter will remain here under protection." "No," Lily cried, suddenly agitated. "We have to go too. Sergeant needs to find the bad man who hurt the captain." "Out of the question," both Rivera said simultaneously. But Sergeant had moved to the door, whining urgently, his body language making his intention clear. "The dog does need to come," Major Rivera said reluctantly. "He's evidence, but the child stays here." "I don't understand," Ella protested. "What's going on?" Major Rivera hesitated, then spoke carefully. 3 years ago, Captain Whitman was investigating substandard materials in military structures built by Blackwood's company overseas. 5 soldiers died when a barracks collapsed. Before he could file his report, there was a fire at the training facility. His body was recovered, but his dog went missing. She looked at Sergeant with something like reverence. That dog was more than a military asset. He and Whitman were part of an experimental program. Enhanced communication, some would call it. "Psychic connection," Marcus translated skeptically. "We never used that term officially," Major Rivera said stiffly, "but the bond between handler and animal was unprecedented, and it appears that somehow your daughter has formed a similar connection. That's why he came to us," Ella realized, to Lily specifically. Major Rivera nodded. "Captain Whitman had hidden evidence before his death. We searched but found nothing. If your husband really did find a medal and flash drive, then Blackwood will do anything to get it," Marcus finished grimly. The tension in the room was broken by Captain Rivera's phone ringing. After a brief conversation, his face darkened. "There's been a development," he announced. "A security guard at Blackwood Plaza just called 911. He reports hearing gunshots in the building's lower level, followed by a fire alarm. The building is being evacuated." "Ryan," Ella whispered, fear clutching at her heart. "We move now," Major Rivera ordered. "Detective, with me. Captain, I need that backup we discussed." As they hurried out, Lily broke away from Ella and ran to Sergeant, throwing her arms around his neck. "Find Daddy," she whispered fiercely, "and the bad man who hurt the captain." Sergeant licked her face once, then turned to follow Major Rivera and Marcus. His posture transformed from family pet to military working dog in an instant. Will this nightmare ever end? And how many more secrets does the relationship between Lily and Sergeant hold? What will they discover when they reach Blackwood Plaza? And is Ryan still alive? Ella paced the small conference room, where she and Lily had been left under the watch of a young police officer. Despite Captain Rivera's assurances of their safety, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were still in danger. Lily sat quietly at the table, drawing on paper the officer had provided. Her pictures were disturbing: a man surrounded by flames, a dog running through darkness, and a building with what looked like a hidden door beneath it. "Mommy," Lily said without looking up from her drawing, "the captain says there's another secret place, under the glass building, where they keep the other papers." Ella knelt beside her daughter. "What other papers, sweetheart?" "The ones that show all the bad things Mr. Blackwood did. Not just the soldier buildings, but other ones too. Buildings that fell down and hurt people." Lily added dark scribbles to the bottom of her drawing. "The captain says we need those papers too, or the bad man will get away." Ella studied her daughter's solemn face. After everything that had happened, she couldn't dismiss Lily's words as mere imagination. "Did the captain tell you where exactly this place is?" Lily nodded. "Under the big eagle in the floor, where the cars go." She looked up, her eyes suddenly wide. "Mommy, we have to tell them. Daddy's in trouble, and the bad man is going to burn the papers." Ella pulled out her phone and called Marcus, but it went straight to voicemail. She hesitated only briefly before making her decision. "Officer," she called to the young policeman at the door, "I need to speak with Captain Rivera immediately. It's urgent. Lives are at stake." Meanwhile, at Blackwood Plaza, chaos reigned. Fire alarms blared as employees streamed out of the building. Fire trucks and police cars created a perimeter, their lights painting the gathering dusk in red and blue. Marcus, Major Rivera, and Sergeant stood at the command post that had been hastily established across the street. The fire chief approached them, his face grim. The fire is contained to the lower level, but we're getting reports of a possible hostage situation. My teams can't go in until we have clearance. Major Rivera stepped forward. I have authorization from the Joint Command. This is now a military operation involving classified intelligence matters. She handed him official-looking documents. We need a way into the lower level that bypasses the main elevators. The fire chief studied the papers, then nodded reluctantly. There's a service entrance at the back of the building. It leads to maintenance tunnels that access all levels, including the sub-basements. Perfect, Marcus said. We'll need a small team. No, Major Rivera cut him off. Just you, me, and the dog. This is a stealth operation, not an assault. The dog? The fire chief looked skeptically at Sergeant, who stood at perfect attention, alert and focused. This isn't just any dog, Major Rivera said. He's a highly trained military asset with specialized skills. As they made their way to the service entrance, Marcus voiced his concerns. You really think the dog can lead us to Mitchell? I've seen what these dogs can do, Major Rivera replied. And this one had the most powerful connection with his handler that the program ever produced. She glanced at Sergeant, who moved silently beside them. If Mitchell has the evidence Whitman died for, Blackwood won't let him leave alive. The dog is our best chance. Inside the lower level of Blackwood Plaza, Ryan was fighting for his life. The flash drive and metal had been discovered during a more thorough search, and Blackwood's rage had turned deadly. You've left me no choice, Blackwood snarled, watching as Klein connected Ryan to a chair in what appeared to be a small security room. Once the flash drive is confirmed destroyed, you'll have an unfortunate accident during the building evacuation. People know I'm here, Ryan said, testing his restraints. My friend Marcus? Detective Alvarez? Blackwood laughed coldly. He'll find no evidence connecting you to this building. Security cameras have mysteriously malfunctioned, and my staff will swear they've never seen you. He nodded to Klein. Make it look convincing, a tragic casualty of the fire upstairs. As Blackwood left with the metal and flash drive, Klein checked his weapon and smiled unpleasantly. Nothing personal, he said. Just business. Ryan's eyes darted around the room, searching for anything that might help him. The fire alarm had stopped it in this section of the building, replaced by an eerie silence broken only by distant shouting and the occasional crackling of a security radio. A noise in the corridor outside made Klein pause. He moved to the door, gun ready, while Ryan worked desperately at the zip ties binding his wrists. The synthetic material bit into his skin, but he felt a slight give. If he could just dislocate his thumb. The door burst open with explosive force, knocking Klein backward. Before he could recover, a blur of fur and fury launched through the opening. Sergeant, teeth bared in a snarl, targeting Klein's gun arm with military precision. Marcus and Major Rivera followed, weapons drawn. While Sergeant kept Klein pinned, Marcus quickly freed Ryan. How did you find me? Ryan gasped. Thank your daughter and this remarkable dog, Major Rivera said, securing Klein with handcuffs. But we're not safe yet. Blackwood has the evidence, and my sources indicate he has a secure room somewhere in this building where sensitive materials are kept or destroyed.
Ryan stood shakily. He took the flash drive and metal. Said something about confirming they were destroyed.
Sergeant suddenly released Klein and moved to the door, whining urgently. His entire body vibrated with tension, his attention focused down the corridor. He wants us to follow him, Major Rivera said. This is what they were trained for. Ryan hesitated. The flash drive is encrypted. Even if Blackwood has it, he can't access the files without the key in the metal, Major Rivera finished. Yes, Whitman was clever that way, but Blackwood's resources are considerable. Given enough time, he'll crack it. They followed Sergeant through the dimly lit corridors of the lower level. The dog moved with purpose, stopping occasionally to scent the air before continuing with growing urgency. He's tracking Blackwood, Major Rivera explained as they hurried after him. The bond between handler and dog allows for this kind of precise targeting. It's why the program was classified. But Whitman is dead, Marcus pointed out. Major Rivera's expression was unreadable. The bond doesn't always end with death, not for these dogs. They descended deeper into the building's sublevels, beyond the areas shown on conventional blueprints. Sergeant led them to what appeared to be a dead end, a solid wall with a maintenance panel. There's nothing here, Marcus said, frustrated. But Sergeant pawed insistently at the panel. Ryan knelt and examined it more closely, noticing subtle differences from standard electrical access points. It's a false panel, he realized, pressing along the edges until he found a hidden latch. The wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage. Blackwood's panic room, Major Rivera whispered. Off the books, not in any official plans. They moved silently through the passage, which opened into a larger space, a secure room lined with filing cabinets and dominated by a large shredder and an industrial incinerator. Blackwood stood at a computer terminal, the flash drive connected. The metal lay beside it, partially disassembled. The encryption is military grade, he was saying to someone on the phone. It will take time to... He froze when he saw them, his hand moving toward a weapon concealed beneath his jacket. Don't, Marcus warned, his gun trained on Blackwood. Police, you're under arrest. Blackwood's composure never faltered. On what charges, detective? This is my private office. You're trespassing. Kidnapping, assault, attempted murder, Marcus listed. And those are just today's crimes. I imagine we'll find evidence of many more once we examine what Captain Whitman collected. You have no warrant, no probable cause. Blackwood's smile was cold. And in about 30 seconds, my security team will respond to the silent alarm I just triggered. Sergeant growled, a deep, threatening sound directed not at Blackwood, but at the incinerator, which had begun to glow with increasing heat. He's destroying evidence, Ryan realized. Blackwood shrugged. Old documents, routine purging of confidential materials. Major Rivera stepped forward, her military bearing intimidating even to Blackwood. Alexander Blackwood, I am placing you under military arrest for the murder of Captain James Whitman, espionage against the United States government, and criminal negligence resulting in the deaths of American soldiers. For the first time, Blackwood's confidence wavered. You have no jurisdiction here. I have every jurisdiction when it comes to the murder of a military officer and sabotage of military installations. Major Rivera nodded to Ryan. Secure the evidence. As Ryan moved toward the computer, Blackwood made his move, drawing his weapon with surprising speed. Before anyone could react, Sergeant lunged, his powerful body knocking Blackwood to the ground. The gun discharged, the bullet striking the incinerator and causing a shower of sparks. In the chaos that followed, Sergeant maintained his hold on Blackwood, while Ryan secured the flash drive and metal. Marcus called for backup, reporting shots fired and requesting immediate assistance. The door to the panic room burst open, revealing 3 security guards with weapons drawn. Major Rivera immediately took command, her military authority and the sight of Blackwood subdued by Sergeant causing them to hesitate. Stand down, she ordered. This is a military operation. Your employer is under arrest for treason against the United States. The word treason had the desired effect. The guards lowered their weapons, confusion evident on their faces. I pay you to protect me, not stand there, Blackwood shouted, still struggling under Sergeant's weight. They also took an oath to their country, Major Rivera reminded him. An oath you betrayed when you cut corners on military buildings, resulting in the deaths of servicemen. As additional police and military personnel secured the scene, Marcus received an urgent call. His face paled as he listened. That was Captain Rivera, he told Ryan after hanging up. There's been a situation at the station. Ella and Lily are missing. Ryan's blood ran cold. What? They were supposed to be protected. They were, Marcus assured him. But according to the officer on duty, Lily became extremely agitated, insisting there was another hidden place with evidence. Ella demanded to speak with Captain Rivera, and when the officer stepped out to get him, they disappeared. Sergeant's head snapped up at the mention of Lily, his ears forward, body tense. Where would they go? Major Rivera asked. Ryan thought of his daughter's strange connection to Sergeant, to Captain Whitman. If Lily had another vision... The parking garage, Sergeant suddenly barked, pulling away from Blackwood and moving toward the door. His behavior was frantic, urgent. What about the parking garage? Marcus asked, bewildered. Ryan remembered something Lily had drawn, a building with a hidden place beneath it. The underground parking structure. Lily mentioned something about an eagle in the floor. Major Rivera's eyes widened. The eagle medallion in the executive parking area. It's decorative, but... She turned to Blackwood, who had gone very still. What's under that medallion, Blackwood? His silence was confirmation enough. Secure him, she told the military personnel who had arrived. and get every available officer to the underground parking structure. Now. Ryan, Marcus, Major Rivera, and Sergeant raced to the parking level. The evacuation had left it nearly empty, the usual hum of vehicles replaced by an eerie silence. In the executive section,